Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a great day. I'm so happy to be. Unfortunately, he's unable to join us today. He's under the weather and just not feeling great, so he's going to hang out at home today, and hopefully he'll be able to tune in and see what this is all about from a different perspective. I think about perspective, and that really means a lot to all of us, to have that right perspective, to be able to look at things from different points of view. We always hear stories about, and maybe they're stories, maybe they're not, but we always hear about how different people are doing certain things, and maybe they're, bad or wrong, or you just feel like, they shouldn't be doing that. Well, maybe they're not doing it that way, and maybe they're not doing what you think they're doing. There's always two sides to every story, at least two sides, and sometimes even more. So I want you to be encouraged to think about that as you're going about your day, as you're hearing different things, and you're getting upset because somebody has said this or somebody has done this. Just calm down a little bit. I know I shouldn't say that, but really we just need to settle down and take it easy and think about what's going on. Think about it from somebody else's perspective. That's going to help you to see things differently. And once you see things differently, you're going to have a much calmer sense about you. It's important to do that, not only because we don't want to assume that whatever's going on is wrong, but also we don't want to assign intentions to anybody else's or assign a motive to anybody else's actions. I had a friend, my old friend Rye, told me that a number of years ago. He's like, you should never assign motives to somebody else's actions. And I thought about that, and I'm like, wow, that's really good. So think about that today and every day, but specifically today. Think about something that really upsets you. What is it that makes you mad? That you just don't understand why they would do that. Maybe it's a friend, a spouse, a mom, a dad, whatever. Think about what it is that they've done to you, that you think they've done to you. And think about it from another perspective. Just sit, don't do anything, but just sit and think. You're going to find that having that different perspective, that different lens on life, is going to change everything for you. So the next time you think of anything, let's go for today, and think of anything that changes your perspective, or I'm sorry, that gets you upset. Just send me a text. Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Good morning, Rhonda. James, she said good morning, James. Unfortunately, yeah, hopefully he feels better soon. Yes, James, hopefully you do feel better soon. So that would be really nice. That's a nice well-wishing from you, Rhonda. Appreciate that. I want to help us all to think of life differently than what we have before. There's so much going on around us with the COVID-19, the pandemic, and then the election that's going to be coming up, and the social unrest with Black Lives Matter, and so many other things that are all present. They're all aware, and they're all here and now. We need to take a step back and look at it from somebody else's perspective. Democrat, Republican, I don't care. But just look at it from someone else's point of view. If you can do that, you're really going to help yourself an awful lot, because you're going to have a much calmer sense about you. My perspective, it isn't always the right perspective. I want to look at it from your perspective. I mean, it just tickles me that Rhonda said well wishes to James. How does she know James? She knows him through this show. And I think that's really, it's cool, yes, but it's awesome, because we're bridging gaps. We're bridging gaps, and we're changing people's lives one at a time with a new perspective. It's not me. I'm not doing it. I know who's doing it, but it's not me. And I just got to tell you, I'm just a happy part of it. I'm a cog in the wheel. And if I can be a cog in the wheel, man, I'll do it every time. But thank you all for joining us here today. We do have a show lined up. I talked a little bit with James yesterday, and we were going to talk about his dog, his dog Hazel. He has a partnership with Hazel, and he relates it to his partnership with God. So I think that having James on, hopefully next week, hopefully he'll be feeling better. But having him on with Hazel, I think that would be great. So let me know what you think about that. If you'd like to see Hazel come on, she is a beautiful French. No, I don't get this right. Labradoodle. She's a Labradoodle. So let me know if you think it would be great to have Hazel on next week, and we'll encourage James to come back on. Oh yeah, and there's another well wishing from my good buddy Mark Usick. Thanks for joining in today, Mark. Appreciate your well wishes for James, and I'm sure he does too. He needs to get back here. He needs to start feeling better so he can get back here. But anyway, I had a couple of questions that I was going to ask James. And I think I'm going to hold some of them, but I still would like to ask the questions of you. So, I think about what he is going through and what I've gone through with everything, and I think about how important it is to be able to understand that you need to, and that we all need to, be able to reimagine our life. So, in my keynote, I talk about how important it is for us all to understand that and the words of my grandma, she said, Brian, because I was complaining about how I had just had surgery. It was the point where I had a shunt put in when I was 10 years old. I had to be pulled out of football camp. It was very traumatic. So life without football, I mean, those words were way ahead of their time, about 40 years. But life without football, much like we have life without football now, I didn't know how I could go on. I didn't know what I was going to do. So she said, Brian, life is going to turn out differently than you planned. So don't be afraid to reimagine your life. She went on. She said, find out what makes you unique, and then use it to make somebody's life better. My grandma was way ahead of her time. So I've taken those words and I've applied them to pretty much everything that I'm doing. I think that doing that has allowed us to have a bigger impact on everyone. So, in the speeches that I have and the book that I wrote, that's not a big deal. But I mean, sorry, I don't mean to diminish it. It is a big deal, but it's not about me. Again, it's not about me. I'm gonna try to, as I say that, try to really live that, because too many times I say things that are very, I think they're very arrogant. And I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. But and help us to stay humble, because that's who we are. And I think it's important for us all to stay humble in everything we do. I told you I wasn't going to ask the questions that I had laid out for James, but I'm going to ask him. Well, I'm going to talk about them a little bit anyway, because I think it's important for us all to understand, that well, I'll just read the questions and we can go from there. So the first question that I had for James was in regards to his relationship with Hazel. So I think that one we'll save for James, because I don't really know Hazel. I'm sure she's a great dog, but I don't know her. So the first question that I had for James was, I want to know, what's his story. I don't want to assume. So James's story is very unique to him, and I'm going to let you tell it, or I'm going to let him tell it to you. But I'll tell you, my story is one where I think most people on the call here today, so far anyway, they know it. But while we're thinking about that story, do me a favor, and if you're watching on live, just put in #live and where you're coming from, where you're living. So that would be helpful to give me a better idea of the viewers that are out there. And then if you would also, like I said, put in where #live, and where you're coming from, not hashtag where you're coming from, but then also hashtag, if you would, #replay if you're listening to this on replay, and then where you're listening in from. So that would be great if you could do that. I would appreciate that. But anyway, so my story, it's a very long story, but it can be a very short story. And part of this is my keynote address, which again sounds arrogant, but I don't mean it that way. I was born and raised on a tomato farm in Northwest Ohio. When I was 10, I had been given the opportunity to go to a football camp. It was a football camp for the Elmwood Royals. So the Elmwood Royals was my football team, and I wanted to be able to be an Elmwood Royal someday. I wanted to have a chance to wear that jersey. I've always thought how cool it would be to be in uniform and to have that jersey. So, and there's Mark, and he's in Wisconsin. That's impressive, Mark. I had no idea. Oh, I thought you were on vacation. Oh, okay. So I've seen some of your posts on Facebook. That's cool. Anyway, so I had a brain surgery. Whoa. Back up. So I had this problem where I wanted to go to football camps, but I had some issues. Didn't know that I had the issues, but after day 3 of football camp, everything just went black. And I was rushed to the hospital. They determined that I had hydrocephalus, and they put in a shunt the shunt drains my excess adrenal fluid from my brain to my abdomen. I have it still, even to this day. It's on the other side, so it's right here. But yeah, so having that put in, it was great because it relieved the pressure from my brain, because it was giving me a headache. But it also meant that I was done playing football. Wow. So done playing football at the age of 10. I was just mortified. I couldn't believe that had happened. So I think it was right before my 5th grade year. Some of you might remember that. I came in with a shaved head. I used to have curly blonde hair. When I grew back in, it was more straight and it was brown. I don't know how it happened, but anyway, so had the surgery to have the shunt put in, and then I wasn't able to play football in the next 43 years. Pretty much okay. But I also had some great times where I met and married my wife Connie. Had 3 children that are Grant, Colin, and Jess. They're all wonderful kids. They're doing very, very well. I could talk about them all day. But anyway, it was March 3rd of 2011 when I was on an all-day training session in Cleveland. I'd driven myself up there by myself on March 3rd, and had the session. Came home that night, and when I came home, something was not right. So I had to stop a few times on the way back, and I'd call Connie and say, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna try to get some rest." Well, I'd get frustrated because I couldn't go to sleep, and then I'd get back in my car or get back on the road and drive home. And I'd stop at every rest stop. It was a long ride home. But anyway, when I got home, I just went straight to the couch. I didn't even go upstairs because it was late and the kids were in bed. Connie was in bed, so didn't want to wake any of them. So I laid on the couch, woke up that next morning, and when I did, everything was dark. So I couldn't open my eyes. Both of my eyelids were swollen shut, and even if they weren't swollen shut, I couldn't do anything to lift them. So I tried to lift them with my finger, and that was about the only way that I'd be able to see anything. But that's when we determined that I needed to go to the emergency room. Well, I went to the emergency room, and there they determined that I had cavernous malformation, which I found out about that in '92. But the cavernous malformation had bled, and it bled, putting pressure on the nerves to control my vision. Before, when they found out about this in '92, they said, "Don't ever let someone operate on your brainstem. That is the worst place that anyone could ever go." So from '92 on, I'm like, well, I'm not having brain surgery because I don't want to have them get into that. Well, anyway, so long story short, the doctor there at the emergency room said, "You need to have brain surgery." And I said, "Wait a minute, brain surgery? They told me never let someone operate on my brainstem. What's changed?" And he said, "Well, the problems you have, you remember 5th grade, yeah." He said, "The problems you have are only going to become worse, and more frequent. Worse and more frequent." Those are the only words that I heard for the next 27 days until, I had to be accepted to have brain surgery. He said, "There are 3 doctors that I recommend. One is in Phoenix, one is in Cleveland, and the other's at Stanford." Like, okay, so we'll go to Cleveland. He's like, "Remember, I gave them to you in order." So we went to Cleveland and talked to the guy up there, and he said, "If I were you, I'd go to Phoenix." Okay, so we went to Phoenix. Well, we applied to Phoenix. We'd already applied, and it took us a couple weeks, and finally, his admin Barbara called us and said, he's accepted you. I've been accepted to have brain surgery. Strange, but we were excited. I made the flights to fly out there, and that was a whole fiasco because I screwed up and I made first class tickets. So I used all my points, which I didn't mean to do, but I did, which was probably a good idea anyway because the flight out was great. We had a nice time, and we were able to relax. We got out there, met with the doctor the next day, and there's a number of people there that and a number of other doctors there that were looking at me because both my eyes were still shut. There was nothing that I could do to open them, and they said, "Well, we might be able to do something with this one here on the left, but that one on the right is probably not gonna move." So I'm like, all right. Um, when the next day we the doctor after surgery, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 hours. Connie was there, and actually my good friend Eric Gowans, who I've known since my time here in Columbus. They both were there, and the doctor said, well, things turned out as good as we could have hoped. So, things went well, which was nice that they said that. Then that afternoon, after the anesthesia wore off, they actually had me walk in the hall. The same day of having brain surgery, I was walking the hall. Now, my brother Neil had gotten there by that point, and he helped me with a little curtain closure assistance because, there's some things that nobody needs to see. But anyway, we were walking the hall, and everything was, going well. I got up the next morning, and they said, you can be discharged at noon today. What? They discharged me at noon, and they didn't want me to get infected. And Connie and I, we had reserved a hotel. Actually, my friend Eric had gotten us a hotel room with his points to stay out there at the Fairfield Inn in Phoenix. So we stayed out there for another 6 days, and flew home. They had given me a bunch of Percocet, or prescription for Percocet, and I didn't want to take it because I just didn't want to be on pain meds. Well, I was nervous about the flight, and so I said, I'd like to start that Percocet now. So Connie gave me a couple Percocet, or a Percocet, and we got on the plane. That was a bad idea. So when you're moving around too much with having taken Percocet, you get an upset stomach. So, it was just not a good flight home. And the entire flight was not good. Anyway, so got home, still didn't understand what was going on with the Percocet. So I had a few days of that, probably a week. And finally we determined that, the Percocet was why I was getting sick. That was probably the most stressful part of the whole thing. I shouldn't say that. The whole thing was stressful. But we came home. I just wanted things to get back to normal. So there's so many people that are probably hearing this story for the first time. I'm leaving lots of little bits out, but you get the idea. So I came home, wanted to get my eyesight back to normal. Thought I'd have this. I'd go see an ophthalmologist because they told me that there was nothing else from a brain perspective that they could do. So my ophthalmologist was, hopefully going to solve everything for me. I went to one, it was not good. Went to another one, he's like, oh yeah, we can help you. So, try to get my eyes straightened out, and they move the muscles around on my eyeballs because I have an image up here and I have an image down here. So they were going to move my muscles around on my eyeballs so I at least have one image from forward on gaze, and then they would move them for this, and they would really be good, at least from a forward on perspective. Well, it didn't work. So there's lots of stuff that went on, and just got to a point where I didn't give up, but I'm like, okay, so this is the new me. While I was going through this, I met, it was probably 2 years after I had surgery. A good friend of mine, Bill Brown, recommended that I go see a guy that was an author and a coach, a leader, and just talk to him. So I did, and had a good conversation. And the guy was very, very encouraging, very hopeful, really nice. His name had been Carrie, not Carrie Allian, but Carrie Oberbrunner. And he had just written this book called The Deeper Path. And The Deeper Path was all about understanding your purpose. And that's when I became to know my purpose. So going through that process, at that point, I was still in IT sales. So I still sold computers and whatever else for large companies here in Columbus. But once I knew that I had a purpose that was bigger than that, I really just wanted to go for it. I wanted to quit my day job and do this full time. Well, that didn't work out that way. I was not ready for that from a financial perspective. I decided that this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. So it was probably 3.5 years ago that I started this company called A Radical Vision, and I've had a lot of people that have helped me along the way. Not only people that have helped me with the creation of the business, but also people that have helped me with my website, people that have helped me with my speaking career. There's been Toastmasters, there's been the National Speakers Association of Ohio, nationally. I've been able to speak to a lot of different groups all across the country, which, I mean, it's just amazing that they would want to have a little old guy from Northwest Ohio come in. But I'm getting more comfortable with the fact that I really have something. I have something to share, and it's my duty. It's my calling, if you will, to share it. So I now go and speak to groups, like I said, across the country. Some of them have been nursing groups. Some of them have been. One was my old company that I worked for at the time that I had surgery, brain surgery. So that's out there. And then there's another group that I've been speaking with, actually, a lot of different companies or associations, and they're all about helping individuals that have intellectual and developmental disabilities. And for some reason, they like my story, not only because of my story, and so my speech, my keynote that I deliver, it really tells my story. That's part of it, but beyond that, I have learning points that come from it. So I like I like to help people. I like to, I just like to have an impact on people, and that's always what I wanted to do. That's always who I wanted to be. I mean, from my first speech my second speech, because my first speech was my farm, what's called Green Hands Creed. So that was in FFA back in 1981 or something. But in 1985, I delivered the speech at my graduation, and that was when I knew, because people were impacted. That was when I knew that I had something, and it's taken me a while to get there, but finally, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I love it. Well, I love it. It's been great. And I know we're almost at about a half an hour, so I wanted to keep this to a half an hour. But we'll continue to talk more about, my story and how I can help people, how I can help you. There's a website that I have, a membership site, so you can sign up for that if you'd like to. Follow me on Facebook, follow me on LinkedIn or YouTube, whichever. I'm just so glad that you're here today. So glad that you've tuned in to listen to my story, my stroke of genius, because we all are geniuses. We all have the ability to keep. What's this? Chris says you're getting your age away. Yeah, I know. Sorry, probably the gray hairs might have something to do with it as well. It's a good thing I'm not thin at all, but that's all right. I'm just happy that it happened when it happened. I didn't know that it was going to happen, but we never know what's going to happen. We don't know what our timeline is. We don't know when we're going to be taken from the earth. So let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep making an impact on people. I hope you have a great day, but I hope you share this message. Share this video. Share anything. Share anything of good news with other people, because they need to hear it, especially today. God bless you all. God bless your time. God bless America. Thank you all for joining. And as always, remember to keep one eye on the road. Thank you.